Hello and welcome to the GFW Radio podcast. This is the podcast for December 19th, 2006. This is our last podcast of the year. Yay!
Happy New Year!
And we have a lot to talk about. And we may, in fact, even have special guests later on. We don't know if they're actually going to call or not. That's part of today's suspenseful mystery.
Surprise caller.
Will they call in or not? We do have also, we're going to reveal a game here on the podcast in just 1 minute, I think. Sean Elliott went up to Valve Software to see a new game, and he is actually free to talk about it. I do have to say, just for 1 second before we start, that I'm really just sick of the, the broken down, unorganized equipment and all the crap that we have to deal with here. It's so frustrating. It took us 20 minutes just to get started here because we couldn't find a headset.
It's actually more
and
like
now I'm
40
sitting
minutes.
in a chair that's like a foot off the ground. I'm like a freaking midget here.
we represent.
We need more money for equipment.
True.
You know?
Spend it all on video cards,
It's
man.
just like a Wayne's World setup here. It's just completely annoying.
And the sad part is we were going to
Don't
start
we
this.
work for multi-million-dollar
Some
corporation?
egg crates on the wall.
One or two. You know, it's kind of sad. I know I was all psyched because we were going to start off this podcast with the Rocky Balboa theme. We were going to
I came down all in a great mood. Yeah, we were going to do. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm psyched for Rocky Balboa. I'm there.
Hell no.
You got nothing to prove, Rock.
I swear this one's going to be good.
Rocky Geriatric Edition.
And
Is he
2
gonna
through
die?
5 sucked.
Is he going
but
to die this time?
Yeah, I think that's number 7.
That's
right?
the big secret.
Rocky dies. Yeah. Okay, enough of that. Like I said, Sean Elliott just got back from Valve Software yesterday, and he got scoopage on a new game being developed internally, and it sounds great to me. It sounds very Dead Rising-ish.
So we need a little.
sort of.
We need a.
Very much
We need
so.
a hands-on scoop sticker.
Oh,
We can
this
put a
is
virtual
from,
sticker.
Yeah, we need a scoop sound effect.
So
And now a GFW Radio scoop. Take it away, Sean.
he's not going to have performance anxiety. Okay, so brought to us by Turtlehead. It's not to be... I messed it up. By Turtle Rock, which I meant to say not to be confused with Turtlehead.
Yeah.
And they're the crew that developed the AI for Condition Zero, Counter-Strike Condition Zero, and then also the Counter-Strike Xbox version. And they're working over the past, 3 years and just seriously ramping up into development like about a year and a half ago on a game called Left 4 Dead. And that's not to be confused with the Tupac song because the 4 is numerical 4.
Inspired by Drive 3 or
Right.
Yeah.
So first, you hear about it and you're like, okay, so great. What's this? Right. And essentially it's a humans versus zombie game, but with the twist. Okay. So essentially what it is you have 4 players and it's a cooperative game. You're all on the same team. You're survivors, and the outbreak, there's, an infestation, the traditional sort of thing, except it's was it 28 days later? Is that the...
Yeah.
yeah.
Am I getting the number right? It's not like 24 and a half
No,
days?
it's
28, it's 28 days
Okay.
later. It's the fast-moving feral
Right, so
zombies.
it's that
Right.
it's that breed of fast-moving monstrosities with and then another 4 players, if they choose, can play what are called boss infected, which are specialized versions. And think of in Resident Evil series, you've got the lickers and the tyrants and everything
Nemesis, yeah.
outside of the usual like shambling decaying guys. And so where should I start off? So you're playing basically as your 4-man team and you're cooperative. You're splitting, weapons and ammo and everything. Of course, resources are rare, but I mean you've got enough to do what you need to do, and you've got a whole lot of shooting to do.
So it's a lot of survival horror multiplayer.
Yeah, but if you think of the pacing of Counter-Strike, and but with, like I said, the enemies are really fast, and they're far more numerous than anything I'd ever seen using the Source engine. So, I'm used to, you play Half-Life 2, and you're used to a zombie encounter. You go into a room, you suspect something's in there, you see 4, maybe 5. In episode 1, during the elevator sequence, they throw them at you in waves, and you maybe get 8 on screen at a time or something, 10. So, in this game, you can have... I mean, even if it's 20, I didn't get an exact count. It seems like there's 40 or something coming at you, and they're just going nuts, running, jumping over things, flying at you. And while a lot of people, some people are critical of whatever, I didn't play Condition Zero, but they're critical of the AI bots in there. But in this case, the difference is that they're zombies. And so all they really need to do is get you. They just need to be aggressive and persistent and smart enough to navigate the environment. They don't need to necessarily flank you or this or that. You know, as long as they're just ruthlessly trying to get at you in any way possible.
Zombies traditionally aren't known for their flanking.
Right, exactly.
That's not one of their big techniques.
So, I mean, so here's an example of like what could happen. Say you're in this broken down train yard or something, and you find ways, and you get up on the cars, and you're like, all right, let's just sit up here and blast them as they're crowding around, and maybe some of my teammates are stuck down there, and you're trying to cover them when you're up top, and soon enough, I mean, they're flying and they're running under the cars, and they find ways to climb up top, and you turn around and there's a whole train of them coming up because they found a way to get up the train car, and there's a whole line of them running at you and just mowing them down. It looks great. I mean, they'll be running at you full speed, and you stop them, you shoot them mid-animation, and they'll just sort of like collapse at your feet or fall off the sides of the car. And
so wait, is it like it's cooperative, right? But
it's cooperative in that there's the four of you playing the human survivor team are all working together. You can help and heal one another. So say, for example, like I'll just continue to illustrate a sample scenario. So say I'm up on the train car, trying to cover two of my guys down below with another friend up on top of the car. And then it turns out that the zombies are getting up on the car with us. We clear them out, and then maybe one guy gets taken down. And when you get taken down, you're still alive at first, and you could still shoot, but you're like laying on the ground, and they're trying to come and eat on you, and you have a certain amount of time when you're still trying to shoot them off of you, and your friend has to come and pick you up. But while you're picking someone up, you're also vulnerable, and then that's when the boss infected stuff come in. So say, for example, if you were what they call a hunter, and one of your moves is this lunge attack, and it's almost like the way that the hidden operates in the hidden mod, where you can lunge really quickly. But what happens here is if you hit someone with the attack, you'll then pull them to the ground, and you'll be holding them in a chokehold and just tearing the crap out of them. And then another one of the survivors has to kick him, melee him or shoot him off of you. So then you can have these scenarios where it just rapidly, it rapidly escalates, and you just lose complete control of things. You have one guy go down, another guy tries to help him, a hunter jumps on him and is at his throat now. So you got to clear all the rest of the waves of zombies, that are coming at you off, get him off of them, pick him up. You say, for example, if you're fighting on a ledge or something on a roof, if one of you falls off, which I found because I'm like, hey, let's see what the fall damage is in this game. I'm going to jump down. Yeah. And instead what happens is you end up slipping over the side and you hold the edge. But instead of pumping the button to get back up, you have to have someone help you and give you the classic like cliffhanger, saving hand. So I'm sitting there at one point, hanging off the side, like yelling, hey, come grab me. But the guy can't because he's fighting. The enemies are still attacking us, so he can't turn his back to them and pull me up right away.
And let's say your guy dies and hits 0 health. Can you do you turn into a zombie?
You don't. So here's what happens when you get to the complete, fatal stage, where you're just absolutely killed. What happens then is that the campaign is set up so that they sort of like organically allow you back into the game instead of spawning you back at the beginning of the level and having you catch up, or instead of making it so you can just keep respawning and you basically can't lose because of that. What happens is you're out and you have to wait, but as the players progress, they might find some closet or something where they stuffed a bunch of bodies in and they could pull you out of there later, and then that way bring you back. But you come back with like low health and just your pistol or something.
So is this actually like a linear campaign with levels?
It is, yeah. So it's a linear campaign with levels.
Who needs Dead Rising, man? This is it.
Right. So on the other side, so what that means is that if you're playing on the infected side, you are always going to be an infected, and you choose between 4 types. So one I mentioned was a hunter, and he's capable. He can also he has stealth abilities, so he can go if your back is against a wall and you stay still, you just go invisible eventually. But any movement will bring you back into visibility. He can also leap, and he can do like triangle jumps. Like if you get between 2 buildings. And sort of like, Mario style, you hit one building, hit the other, and you just keep, and then you get up on the rooftops and stuff, right? And where, of course, now the survivors can get and leap down on them. Another is called the smoker, and when it gets hit a bunch, it sort of throws out this noxious, like, tear gas thing that just completely obscures the area. And line of sight's really important, so it's really obnoxious. You don't want this thing throwing out the smoke. You want to kill them quick because, all of a sudden, you're looking at an opaque wall of smoke, and then like 30 zombies come rushing right through it all of a sudden, And
that's a bummer.
His other thing is he's got a 40-foot long tongue, and with which he can grab you.
Yeah, and that's right, ladies.
He's got the Gene Simmons attack. So yeah, he'll hit you with that tongue, and he'll pull you toward him, and other teammates again have to shoot him to stop him. Or what's better is like he could be above you over a railing, and his tongue kind of hangs over the guardrail, grabs you, and like basically acts as a noose. And
That's
How
awesome.
big is
chokes
that
the
dude's
shit out
mouth?
of you. It's not that big.
How does he wrap up?
I don't know where the
40 feet
tongue
of
goes.
tongue?
These unhinged
Yeah,
Zombie, it's okay.
it's
ask
zombie
for a lot.
science, man.
Yeah.
mad zombie.
trying to get in
actually,
there?
the one thing you're describing, like I've played so many zombie games over the years, and the one thing I always wished for is that kind of multiplayer kill the guy mode, where like, you know, you start off with even teams, and then the teams become unbalanced
Right.
until there's like the guy who's left.
And there are several source mods that play that way.
Right.
Zombie Strike is one that's
Exactly.
basically
but,
running
but basically, just seeing that inside of a game made specifically about zombies, that'd be like,
having you switch over.
yeah.
So how does this? I mean, I know the gameplay's totally different, but
Right.
But do you feel like this holds any comparison whatsoever to Dead Rising, which is
I
the
haven't
obvious
played
big zombie
Dead
game
Rising
of the year?
yet. I
Oh,
need
you
to.
haven't?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think it's probably an apples and oranges comparison.
It might be.
At
Yeah.
first, I was skeptical because you're like, okay, really, is this gonna be just like a Smash TV game where you just blast stuff that appears?
Right.
But I was really, it's scary. It holds the vibe together, and constantly you're like, oh crap, and you feel like things are falling apart, and you're scared. And the other thing that's great about it is that the AI. I mean, I think it's even though it's a campaign, it's ultimately like replayable. And I mean, I guess it's like a series of like 6 campaigns in a package, and I played one of those like 3 times from different characters' positions. But instead of saying like, you open this door and you're going to spawn zombie, you're going to trigger a zombie attack here, that is like always changing. It's completely, I mean, I don't know like if it's entirely random or they have like a set number, if they have 10 variations and then they recombine those for like approaching an infinite, variety of recombinations. But because of it, you don't get that like Mad Dog McCree shit where you're like, okay, here's the dude that's going to appear on the banister. I'm going to shoot him over into the horse trough.
Okay, don't talk shit about Mad Dog McCree. I dropped mad coin on that on the arcades.
Until you knew that the dude was going to appear on that banister and fall in the horse trough.
It was worth it though to see that old coot from the mine just go, bye, Cricky.
So the guys are always coming from different areas, and they can come behind you too. So I mean, as there are different entrances, and when you're playing from the infected side, you also have different level pathing to some degree. You can go through different routes and stuff. So you want someone to hold up the rear and look back, and all of a sudden he's like, guys, there's some bad guys coming.
Hello, help me.
So let me cover the other 2 boss infected quick because they're fun. They're all fun.
Okay.
The other's a boomer, and it's just this grotesque, morbidly obese sort of like use a
journalist?
forklift to get out of bed. Yeah, well, that games journalist and like Maury Povich guest,
Okay.
Obesia, except he's male. So tremendo. So
Tremendo.
Gigantor.
and it is just this big, fat pus-covered piece of crap, and he projectile vomits and it spews out like a fire hose, so you could strafe with this crap.
Doesn't
you
that
see
guy
him-
work at GameSpot? I'm just kidding.
Oh shit! I thought you said GameStop at first. You're going there?
Yeah, I love the
You
guys at
went
GameSpot. I had to pick someone.
All right.
I was actually gonna say GameStop, but
Yeah,
thank you.
go ahead.
So
I'm
this
sorry.
guy, you just got a neck beard.
He has a Klingon dictionary in his
A
hand.
4chan shirt on. And
No, actually, it's like 01011.
okay, so imagine
point.
now, like, the Metal Slug series, the zombies.
Yeah.
When you turn into one and you do that big giant projectile vomit thing, it's kind of like that, but you can strafe with it. And what happens is when you hit someone with it, they become marked. It's a pheromone type thing,
So he's like,
and all
describe
that
that-
rotten bile attracts all the NPC zombies. So all of a sudden, you get hit with that, and part of the trick for playing that boss infected is you're really weak. It's easy to get killed. They shoot you a bunch. I mean, not a bunch. They shoot you a considerable amount. You're gone. So you want to prey on the weak. You find the guy that's limping, or one of the stragglers in the back that they weren't paying attention to, and you hit him with it.
And then vomit
And
on him?
suddenly, yeah, you just puke on him.
That's insult to injury. You're
Are-
limping
are
already?
the guys, so I just want to go back for a second. So there's locational damage. So like your guys are limping if they're like.
I don't know if it's locational. I think it's more over time. You lose a
Yeah.
certain percentage of your health, and you start to slow down, and you're visibly like hurt and
Okay.
ailing.
And then you have to worry that someone's going to vomit on you.
Right, and then once you vomit on him, it's
So
great.
that's like Saturday night
Then
then.
say 20 regular zombies come rushing at him at full speed, and they're already hurt.
Oh, man.
And every time they start wailing on him, you get points for that too. If you're the
that's cool.
boomer, and so your points are just like racking up, like it's like you.
What do you
know,
get with the points?
Shitty casino. You just get right now. They're deciding so far. They've got they rank you, and you get all these different. There's these different badges and awards every time you clear a
Achievements.
campaign.
I'm an achievement horror.
But
Yeah.
right, so it's the achievement model, and they're debating on whether or not there will be sort of a material, or in this case, a virtual reward, such as, guns and weapons and things like that you can access.
This is sounding so sweet.
But so the other thing about the Boomer is that he will explode after being shot. He's like a big giant bomb. But you use that to your advantage when you're him because you can run up and swat the hell out of them, and all they can do is they have to melee you to push you back and then shoot. But so like what I would do is, I'd find a place where I'm sort of, there's a hole in the roof or something, and I wait for them all, and I just drop down in the middle of them, and they freak because they just think it's a zombie and shoot, and you blow up, and it hurts everyone.
Oh,
and kills
so
a
area
few.
damage.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it's a big. He's just
God,
like a,
so you're like this projectile
you're like-
vomiting, like kamikaze.
right, kamikaze
Oil-
sack of shit.
Oil drum. and then on
Right,
top
yeah,
of that, you're
he's
like an oil drum.
He's the flaming barrel of that shit.
Exactly. Yep.
And then another one is called just the tank. I mean, some of these names are changing. He was listed as the Hulk as a Hulk in the game, and clearly there's going to be some copyright issues there. But this giant guy, and he comes in only once in a while. And if you're in the boss infected spawn pool, you might get chosen, so you get to be him, because they don't want, these guys are so powerful, they don't want a billion of them in the game spawning over and over again. And this guy's great because you could just pick up cars and anything in the environment and just stuff that no one can move and just throw it at guys, smack them across the area. Like I saw one that was great. A guy got knocked down and he's laying on his back, waiting to get picked up, and he's like shooting with two twin Glocks at the thing, and then he hits him again, and the guy's like flying through the air, like shooting. It looked like he had broken legs. Hits a wall. And then a lot of environmental stuff. So there's like girders and stuff underneath you. You can hit him, and whatever you're standing on will just collapse, and you'll fall down to where he's at. And those guys are just big.
So that requires 4 other players. I mean, it's 4 people cooperative.
It could be none if you want.
Okay.
You could set it as many ways as you want. You can have bots as your allies on the survivors. Say if it's just you and a friend and you want 2 bots to help you, and you want to fight nothing but bots, they'll still spawn in AI controlled boss infected.
Okay.
Well,
Or you could have 4
guys are
people do them. And it's fun with humans, of course, because a lot of some of the guys there, Eric Wolpaw was doing a lot of annoying hit and run tactics as a smoker. He knew he didn't want to like fight us, so it basically amounted to griefing,
That's awesome.
But in a way,
That's
he's
his style.
supposed to. He'd just come out and belch up a bunch of smoke and then go hide again somewhere and pop out behind you and grab you with his tongue and hang you over the rail.
So basically, he's
take
like
off again.
So in the classical scene, he's like a support role.
Right.
You go in, do your thing, then run back.
Right.
So he's kind of like the engineer, I guess.
Yeah. So that was one concern I have, and that they're going to have to address, is that when you are on the infected side, it's of course stacked against you, because the guys ultimately are supposed to get through the level,
Right.
And there's depending on how long you survive each time you spawn in, there can be a considerable wait, like up to like 30 seconds. And I mean, they've considered letting you in between in intervals play as like one of the regular dime a dozen zombies or whatever, but I still think they need to do, unless you ramp up the difficulty, and it does get hard. There's 4 difficulty levels, and then when the survivors are playing on like medium and hard, it gets tough for them. Because there's some other things that you can't play called witches and stuff too, and they're just nasty. And then it works out better. But like on the easier modes, it's not as fun, I found, to play the infected yet, because it's easy to get torn up.
So is this a full-on like major Valve release? I mean,
It'll be like Counter-Strike or something where it's $29.99. And they're really expecting this sooner than later. They're really hoping to hit a March or so.
it's interesting. This thing's just
release.
like under the radar. I mean, they
Right.
really didn't make a big deal about this ahead of time.
Right, and it's cool because then all of a sudden
I
it's
actually kind
like,
of
whoa.
appreciate that more. I actually appreciate them doing that kind of stuff more, as opposed to like you build up the hype and then 2 years later you're still waiting for the damn game.
Well, it's just been an interesting year with like the ship. I mean, they just like keep kind of cranking out these. I mean, I guess the ship doesn't compare.
That
right?
was
'Cause it's a
the
mod.
ship wasn't by them either.
Right.
That was someone using their engine.
Right.
Right,
so
but
that
the-
was a mod.
But the Turtle
No,
Rock
it
guys
was
are
a
doing
retail.
something.
It
'cause,
started
like,
as a mod,
after they were working on Condition Zero, the Turtle Rock guys went in house, I think, with Valve, so it
Right,
really makes sense.
and they wanted they had straight multiplayer games. Valve did they defeat Counter-Strike and stuff. They had straight single player, and they wanted a kind of cooperative experience to go in between there.
Sure.
And I think this is really the right game, and maybe the timing is almost off a little bit, in that it could have come out sooner. But because when Half-Life 2 came out, a huge number of mods had to do with essentially this type of gameplay, fending off onslaughts of antlions, with 2 people. The zombie strike mods I was talking about, Counter-Strike. So the demand is definitely there, and people want to do it. Now here's a version where,
Right.
and that too,
And there's
made
no
me
good
skeptical,
shooters
because
right
I was
now.
like, this stuff's already been done by your fans.
Yeah.
But you could definitely see the first Valve's like own coat of polish on this, and it's making a big difference.
But you know what? I got to tell you,
It's exciting.
You know what? One, the gameplay sounds really cool, and also, it's freaking zombies. You know what?
Right.
They could have a turd in a box with a zombie on the cover. I'm going to buy the box. Right. Okay, maybe
good.
not. Maybe
That's
not.
great, Darren. So glad you have high
note
quality
to Ryan,
standards.
Do not let Darren review zombie kids.
Exactly. No, actually.
Also, we know what to get Darren for Christmas.
I already got a couple of those waiting under the tree.
So, one last thing about it I'll say is like there's a number of cool scenarios where you take turns going up like an elevator that's on the outside of a building or something, or like you get to you work your way to a rooftop where you're going to get extracted by a helicopter, but then you have to wait for the helicopter. Very, very Resident Evil-ish, and you're up there mowing down, hordes and hordes of guys as they're attacking, and some of them, the hunters are jumping. They can jump up to their roofs with you, and they're trying to knock you off, like very much using a melee to push you off, and the tanks are coming in and knocking stuff down. Eventually, you get in the helicopter and you're circling around and using the chain guns on all the zombies as you're taking off, and it was very fun. I was very excited by it.
Actually,
I had a great time playing it.
I got to ask, when you were talking to the team working on it, were there any guys that had come in as like former modders? Just out of curiosity.
I didn't hear about any of that. It sounded like it was really a small crew, and it was like all of Turtle Rock from as they were when they put together Condition Zero.
The only reason I ask is because obviously it's not as ambitious as this, but a year ago at IGF, I saw one of the contestants and I think mod winners. These guys, I think I could swear the game was called The Awakening. It's a UT 2004 mod that basically is what you described.
Oh, right.
Team-based survival horror, zombies versus humans.
Cool.
And each guy had a certain role. But I mean, so I guess I'm just shouting out there. If you do a lookup for it, you could
maybe it's just two different teams working on a similar.
That's one of those things where a lot of
the two Capote movies.
Right. Well, exactly. The thing is, I think it's one of those things where everyone wanted to do the quintessential nice Capote reference
or anything. Deep Impact and Armageddon same year.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ants in a bug's life. Blah blah blah.
yeah. There you go.
I'm going to stick with the highbrow answer.
Yeah. Finding Nemo
and go read the New
Sharks.
Yeah. Anyway, I was just going to say.
Well, that sounds great, Sean. Thanks for the scoop.
Yeah, guys.
and now the outro for the scoop music.
Oh, outro for the
to
scoop.
take a break.
There's a time. We're going to take a break. We're going to see if our callers are calling in or if they're snubbing us. Maybe they're calling into somebody else's podcast.
Bastards.
As long as it's not the fucking Retronauts. Okay.
They're there to talk about the original Command & Conquer.
Okay, we'll be right back.
It wasn't from Japan. It's not going to be on Retronauts.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. But as long as you're here, let me tell you about EGM Live, the weekly podcast from the editors of Electronic Gaming Monthly, along with the wonderful sounds of... EGM Live comes action-packed with special guests, late-breaking news, fanboy-baiting commentary, behind-the-scenes tales of office tomfoolery, and trivia contests with fantabulous prizes. Download it now at egmlive.oneup.com or subscribe to it through iTunes.
EGM Live is part of the OneUp Radio Network, taped in the Ziff Davis offices in San Francisco. It is not actually live, and contest prizes are not guaranteed to be fantabulous.
Want to know what's new now? Then join Jim Louderback and Patrick Norton as they tackle the latest technology news. They'll keep you informed with their weekly What's New Now podcast. Just go to what'snewnow.com and subscribe, or subscribe through iTunes.
Welcome back. We did, in fact, get our call-in folks here. Yay. So we are now on the line with Mike Verdu, the executive producer of Command & Conquer 3 Tiberium Wars, and Jason Bender, the lead designer of Tiberium Wars. So, hello, gentlemen.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
We just, I think it went on the newsstand today, in fact.
It's no, at least yesterday.
No,
I saw it at the airport.
Yesterday? Okay. Are the second glorious issue, or is it the third glorious issue? Second?
Second.
The second issue of our relaunch Games for Windows magazine is on newsstands with the new Command & Conquer game on it, and so we brought these fine folks in here to talk to us about the game. And we have a page full of questions, about 3 of which we'll probably get to in the time we have. So, Sean, Elliot has been chomping at the bit to ask an obnoxious one right off the bat.
I just want to know if any similarities between Tiberium Wars and Superman Returns. Tiberium and Kryptonite are entirely coincidental.
Yeah,
They hung up already.
I was a little surprised. So we've been working on this for a while, and I was a little surprised when I went to see Superman, the movie, how much kryptonite was in that movie. And it was just funny because I've been working with green crystal, had my head buried in it for months. And then the next thing you know, you go to Superman and it's just green crystal everywhere. It was pure coincidence.
Yeah, we were looking at the cover just now with all the Tiberium on it, and we were like, oh yeah, this could have been the Superman cover.
Or the Kane and Lex, both are bald, man.
Yep, it's a total connection.
But as you guys know, kryptonite and Tiberium have both been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it just so happens that we ended up lining up at the same time.
It was a facetious question because I know I had actually heard the plot of Tiberium Wars in advance of the plot for Superman Returns, and then it was like, as you said, suddenly not only is it everywhere, but yeah, it's just taking over the entire planet.
Well, Tiberium was kind of going that way for a long time in the previous games too, so it wasn't like
I know that, man. I just had to ask.
man.
Okay, so before the spin spirals out of control, let's keep it game-centric. I'm sure most of our listeners know this franchise. If you don't, this Command & Conquer is one of the seminal real-time strategy games going back to when did the first one come out? I should have had these facts on my hands.
Well,
the first CNC was 96?
95?
95?
Ooh,
Okay,
yeah.
I was close. And now you're back after a fairly long hiatus. And there's just a lot of questions I have in regards to that. I guess the first one being right now, we're really seeing a pretty cool renaissance of strategy games, RTSs, like Relic's Company of Heroes, EA's own Battle for Middle-earth 2. There's been some really great ones this year. And is that a good thing for you guys? Do you feel you're entering a resurged market, or do you feel that, is the competition a good thing, or are you worried about your game stacking up, or are you confident, or what?
As a strategy gamer, seeing the variety of games out there is really heartening, and looking at the sales data, they're actually doing well. So it seems like the whole market is coming back. It is kind of a golden age, especially for RTS, and it's cool because each of the games that are coming out have something that makes them sort of unique and special and occupy their own place in what seems to be a pretty healthy ecosystem of real-time strategy. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's actually a good thing. It shows there's a lot of life in the market, and if you're a fan like I am, and like most of the people on the team are, it's a great thing. Certainly, CNC3 I think offers a lot of value in the main features that we have, everything from the pace of the gameplay, which is very fast and has a unique feel to it, to the richness and depth of the story, which I think is very unique in the market we have now, and the way we tell the story, and then some of the really cool things we're doing with multiplayer. So I do think we're offering interesting things to the mix, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, so definitely as a gamer, I love it. It's so cool being able to have just a variety of different things to play. For a long time, first-person shooters have been getting pretty diverse. It's nice to see RTSs, having both the volume and diversity at the same time for once, because we tend to have one or the other. Mm-hmm. So now we have a lot of really interesting games out there of pretty significantly different styles. The cool thing about working on Command & Conquer is that, it's been around for a long time, and it has definitely its own style. And so it's a lot of fun to be able to work on one that stands out, and to be able to do something that's really fast-paced, clean, and and as Mike was saying, it's cool being able to actually have a story, because a lot of them out there, they don't necessarily have that. Mm-hmm. So we're able to have like a really cool multiplayer aspect, a really cool single player with a story, and a franchise that people know and love. And it's like, that's pretty awesome to be working on that.
The storytelling. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you, the storytelling, the way you are doing it, is definitely unique because of, the obvious thing is the full motion video you're doing with some fairly famous people. And it seems cool to me because obviously you have some big name in the geek world stars. You've got the Battlestar Galactica babes. You've got Josh Holloway from Lost. But it seems like such a odd throwback to like a time that's been fairly discredited, but in gaming.
FMV will never die, man.
Right. So why did you guys choose to go this way?
Well, I think that if you know and love CNC, you have this expectation that the stories are going to be told using that mix of live action and CG. Mm-hmm. And I know it's for the 3 generations of CNC fans who are working on the project, it was almost a no-brainer to bring back that way of telling the story. And I know our community and our fans had that expectation as well. Everybody has kind of a soft spot in their heart for the way the fiction was delivered in the early CNC games, and we had to follow through on that. I mean, we just felt that it was something that we had to do, and we're really pleased with the way it came off. I think that people are going to be excited to see the story come to life and in the sequences that we have between missions.
So go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Were the famous folks like Tricia Helfer, were they good sports about doing all this, or did it seem like they were just cashing a check in between takes for Battlestar Galactica?
Oh no, they were actually quite excited to work on the project, and in fact, a number of them cited the script and the treatment that we sent them as the reason they signed up to do this, because it's an interesting world, and the characters are interesting, and it's not that often that you have a game story where characters really sort of learn and grow as the story progresses, and there's sort of a couple of different layers operating, and you have something that feels like it has some real depth and dimension. Mm-hmm. And they really sunk their teeth into that and had a great time with it.
Did you get to meet all of them?
Yeah, fortunately.
That's why you did this.
So, I mean, that was kind of the cool thing about, I had no idea what to expect when I was meeting some of these people. And so, Tricia, for one, she was such a great sport. She was having so much fun. And the amazing part was that she was both having a great time and smiling constantly, and just did an amazing job. I mean, it was shocking. I mean, so we make games. So being on a set with this kind of talent, it's inspiring, because you don't realize just how awesome they really are until you see them in person. And it's just as electric in person as it is when you see them, on screen with all the music and all the effects and all that. So it was so cool seeing the real talent, being able to do something and then have fun at the same time.
And what we're doing with the full motion video sequences is really at the heart of what we're doing across the board with the product, which is making something that feels very CNC. Mm-hmm. With 27 million copies out there, CNC is a very widely known and loved franchise, and so there's a very high bar we have to beat in terms of having people sort of come home and play a game that feels very much like the earlier games in the series, but at the same time, it has to be, fresh and updated and feel like it's a state-of-the-art 2007 RTS.
Right.
So finding that balance, that mix, is something that we work hard on every day. And I'm delighted that the people who have played the game and the people who have seen the video sequences say, "Yeah, this is a CNC game. There's no higher praise than you can give us."
This is probably going to be the first CNC game for a lot of gamers, especially younger ones, obviously.
And it's certainly, we've kept that in mind for sure. I mean, we definitely aren't merely catering to people that know the fiction up to now. I mean, the story is really, advanced beyond where it was before. I mean, and this isn't like the inundation of FMV from the 90s. I mean, it's not just another game of, random cutscenes. Yeah. I mean, the gameplay has been brought forward. I mean, we've worked on multiplayer a lot. The single player campaign, we've done we've put a lot of effort into making sure the missions are a lot of fun, whether or not you've played CNC before. And I'm hoping that the people that haven't played CNC before, once they get their hands on this game, will get it and will consider themselves fans, just like people who've played the first one.
Yeah, super fast, fluid RTS gameplay is addictive, and even people, who have never been exposed to RTS, we're able to get them in and playing with our new UI, and they have a blast. So we're actually really looking forward to the reaction from people we're drawing into the fold, as well as people who are sort of coming back.
Now, how about the Xbox 360 connection? Is it launching simultaneously, first of all, on both platforms? Do you know?
No, and we haven't really talked about a release time frame for the.
But gameplay-wise, I mean, have you had to make concessions or changes to the PC gameplay to accommodate 360 controls, or is it going to be the same experience that we would be used to with any RTS?
It's the same experience. We're building on the foundation that we put in place with the Battlefield Middle-earth 2 on the 360, which really showed that you can play a classic RTS game with a controller and have it be a great experience. And using the controller actually brings some new things to the game, like actually making use of the 3D space, because with your finger on a stick, it's just so easy to fly through the world and make it seem like a real 3D place.
Would you actually recommend maybe that PC gamers play it with an Xbox 360 controller if they had one? Or would you still prefer a keyboard mouse?
It really comes down to a matter of taste. I mean, personally, I love my keyboard and mouse, and it's very cool to play with a controller, and it's an absolutely viable way to go. It comes down to preference. Jason, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, So for most RTS gamers, it's been a PC primary platform for so long that a lot of people are just trained up on the mouse keyboard, and so it tends to be more natural. But what I found in shooters is that after a while, when people start to play a certain genre on the console for a while, that becomes their primary way of playing. So anyone who is just feels at home with a console controller in their hand would play it that way. I mean, it really just is a matter of how experienced you are with one platform or the other.
Right.
What if you've got a guy who's using the controller and he's playing against somebody who's a total hotkey fiend on the keyboard? I mean, doesn't that guy have a leg up?
So there's a number of people on the team who just play the game on the 360, and it feels native to them, and they're itching to challenge somebody on the PC side. So you won't be able to play 360 against PC in CNC3. That's probably a generation or two of games away. But they are adamant that when the time finally comes for the showdown between the console players and the PC players, they're gonna prevail.
We have to stay facing each other, spitting at one another across the same line for another few years yet before we can finally put our fists up. Victora!
This does seem kind of the ideal game to be able to do that kind of cross-platform.
Well, let her
match,
FPS, I guess.
Yeah, but you see, it's probably a generation off. You think?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
there's nothing technically in the way. It's just a matter of getting everything sort of synchronized and making sure everything works. And you probably want a simultaneously released product. But yeah, it's the day is coming.
I remember their ass.
Didn't that day came though, like with Quake 3 on Dreamcast and.
Oh yeah, that worked out really well with the the connection.
Okay, so how about the third race now? We have on our cover we said new race revealed, except we couldn't reveal their name. Do they have one yet?
Chuck.
We aren't revealing the name, and you probably won't find out a lot more about where they came from and what they're all about, other than what you can read about in the magazine until you actually play the game. Their identity is very much, tied into Tiberium, and there's a considerable amount of mystery and mythology that's built up around the alien race. But
okay, so no, you're not telling us.
No, we're not telling.
You bastards. Translation.
Okay, I've been hogging the questions. Do you guys have any you're dying to ask?
Oh,
in the last minute.
Got 1 minute. Speed round, Darren.
All right, I'll save the easy question for the 1 minute one. So you guys obviously you're kind of bringing back the classic gameplay style of the CNC series and kind of refining it, trying to make it more of a speed game. And you've talked a lot about RTS as a sport. Can you elaborate how you're trying to envision this as a competition game?
I think that you start with good fundamentals. I mean, with fast gameplay, having a satisfying experience in, 15 or 20 minutes, well-balanced sides that lend themselves to a very sort of defined way the game plays out in the early game, mid-game, and late game. I mean, I think the designers have done a great job in setting up the sides so that they're really well-balanced against each other, and it's unfortunate we only have a minute because Jason can address this topic in depth. So I think the fundamentals are there, and then the new features we're adding, like the ability to broadcast out your game to literally thousands of people. It's just really kind of new, is making it into almost like a spectator sport.
So
and
when you say broadcast, you mean, but what, anybody who's around could actually just watch the match?
So you go to a website, you can download a spectator client. You don't even need to own the game, and you can tune in and watch games in progress. There are people in the community who can do voice over IP commentary and do telestrator markups on the screen to show you what's happening, move the camera over to the interesting moment. So you can have guides through the experience that show you from different perspectives what is going on. And then what's really cool is the other features that support this idea of RTS as a sport, including the stats that we track, the way that we allow you to schedule games or pick up games that happened in the past, the reputation system that we're putting into place so that you can actually score people that you play against, and that way we're hoping to turn the community and the people who play into a little bit of a self-regulating entity. And there's lots of good stuff out there that I think we'll have this game living in multiplayer long after it's released.
Does this mean that you're kind of looking at this as like trying to supplant, say, StarCraft in the World Cyber Games and stuff like that? Kind of like push it as kind of like the premier game for competitive play?
We're doing everything we can to build a game that will be played competitively. Ultimately, whether or not we succeed will be up to the people who play competitively. So we are trying to make something that's worthy of their attention, and we hope through bringing the best CNC players in the world onto our site to help balance and tune the game before we release it. All these new multiplayer features, the design that's gone into the sides and the way they interact with each other, the balance. Again, we're working very hard to put all the foundation in place, but ultimately gamers will be the judges of whether this is worthy of competitive play.
Okay, cool. But you haven't talked to any of those guys yet. You haven't gone to those major pro game competitions and gotten anywhere with feedback on that, or?
No, I mean ultimately it's going to be the tens of thousands of people who actually play the games, and I think it will attract the attention of some of these other organizations if the fundamentals are there.
Okay.
All right. I think we are probably out of time. Are you guys out of time on your end?
Yes, we are.
You are. Thank you for joining us.
So many more questions.
Yeah, we do have at least another page full of questions here.
And no more kryptonite questions.
Maybe we can have you back, though. Would you come back?
It would be our pleasure.
All right. We weren't too hard on you?
Not at all.
I know the answer to that. We weren't. We could be way harder.
I had the hardball questions, too.
Well, thanks for joining us, and we hope to have you back again sometime soon.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanking guys.
Good talking to you guys.
Good talking to you. So coming out of that, I've got one comment now. Now that we're in the speaking of all the full motion video, and
are we in the no spin zone now?
We are. No, it wasn't that I couldn't say it to them. I just didn't want to throw them off. They had the very limited amount of time to talk to us.
Agreed.
I didn't want to waste their time, but
right.
I just wanted to say that now that we're in the digital video era, I want to see people when this game comes out edit their own FMV sequences right into the gameplay.
The remixes.
You got some guy that's you show his neck bearded face going, all right, throw all of your tanks in one clump and attack now. And they show him, and then you cut to the video of the tanks, and they just get all wiped out by one, anti-armor countermeasure. Then you cut back to him. You stupid asshole, why did you tell me to put all my tanks? Dude, he's got a fez on or something. And
some Klingon badges.
Fake plastic sheriff's badge,
From fridge open in the background.
The junior high fair, Western Days fair. You won it playing couch hit bingo. Why did you make me throw all those tanks in one clump? I told you I wanted to diversify my units. That would be hot, though.
Dude, I totally see some Rooster Teeth caliber potential.
I gave someone all they need to become famous.
We have the tools. Go.
You got it.
I knew when I asked that we weren't hard on them. It's kind of hard to do they had 15 minutes,
right?
And we're on the phone. I don't want to come on and say so how come your game sucks?
Well, and who even knows?
Not that we're saying
we don't
think
even
it
know.
does,
No, not that I'm
obviously.
saying. I'm not saying it does.
No, but I think
saying.
in the case of FMV, it would be like, do you feel confident going ahead? Like you kind of got to it by saying, hey, you're going to have a lot of new users in this, and what you're basically implying there is that to them, there's no history of
Exactly.
FMV familiarity.
That was
is
my
this going to
point.
seem corny?
That was
is this
my
going to
point. Yes.
work? And their choice, which I totally respect, is to go ahead with it and avoid the kitsch and the pastiche and just say, this is FMV. This is how we've done this series,
Right.
and this is how we're doing it. And
Right.
I think the danger would be to do like a Wayans brother treatment on it, and to get too tongue in cheek.
Oh,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think that would
Jokes.
ruin it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if they tried to
they
shoot-
just go for it straight and just try to make it dramatic, and I mean, who knows?
Yeah, if
That
they-
could totally
I think
work.
that these actors, these. Like, I want to see it. I do. I admit it.
if-
I'm a big Battlestar Galactica fan. I want to see them in
And
this
the
FMV.
budgets are just so much higher than like
I was going to ask them
Wing
about
Commander
that, too.
days that like part of me is going, okay, so like
maybe they can actually get
It's
something. good.
entirely possible that they can make this look great. I mean, look, the new David Lynch movie, right? He shot that on digital video, on store-bought digital video camera. So
True.
The capabilities to make something good with that kind of technology are much greater.
And not to say anything wrong with Carrie Wurr. I love the body of her work, but
It's always just been the disconnect between what you see that you're controlling.
Right.
So it's like you're going to be, again, imagine that kid. He's just completely pissed off, and all of a sudden he sees, and then it cuts to Tricia Helfer, and he's like, why don't you shut up and farm Tiberium faster if you want to help me? It's like
and do
she's
it
trying
topless.
she's trying to tell him how the battle's playing out. You should take off your shirt when you farm that Tiberium.
lols.
He might be saying that to Josh Holloway, though.
And she's trying to tell him she's got more to get off her chest than wet T-shirts, but we don't know if he's ready to hear it.
I meant to send them a message to give to Gaius Baltar. But then I remembered that.
Is he in the cast too?
No,
He's
not.
Okay.
Remember, he's not real.
Right.
Yeah,
Tell Gaius.
you're one step into
Tell
my
Gaius you
character right
suck.
there. Got a letter for Gaius Baltar.
Tell
huh?
Gaius he's a traitor to humanity.
Yeah,
Green's going to kick his ass.
yeah. I bet he gets spit on in the streets too.
Yeah.
Jeff's got his own fanfic blog, by the way. It's called Baltar Star Galactica. If anyone's listening.
Actually, he's a filker.
And number 6 is my queen.
Is it Filk or Felt?
I thought no, Felch. Wow.
This is a felt-free
Felch-free zone.
podcast.
Folk, but it's like folk,
Fantasy folk music.
fantasy, folk music. So
Yeah,
it's like
filter.
or sci-fi. Yeah, but like if you see the movie Trek, he's like, "Me immortals, you be." There's like a guy in a wig and lipstick.
Did you not see this?
And he's
I
saying,
didn't see
Oh,
Trek.
you need to see Trekkies,
no,
man.
it's
That
It's
is
been on my
awesome.
Netflix queue for a year.
I'll just loan it to you. It's awesome.
Yeah. So we're off. We're not off topic. We're talking Command and Conquer and FMV. We might as well. We're not that far away from
From filking.
filking.
Okay.
It's like
well,
one step removed.
Okay, we're at 11:38. Somebody's supposed to be using this room.
Mm-hmm.
They're not here, so we'll just free associate talk until they
Is it
kick
those
us
damn
out.
retronauts?
Well, I mean, we
not
had the
that.
whole.
That's
I mean, I wanted to. If we wanted to talk about the AI stuff that I was talking before we started podcast,
That was
I
a good
mentioned.
topic.
We have some news stories. We've got,
some news
Crytek
stories.
and the
I-
Polize.
I could talk about
Why don't we do-
Hellgate. I played it a couple weeks ago when I was still in town.
Okay.
I could talk about how New York pizza rocks still.
No, don't talk about
Okay,
that.
never mind.
But we could talk about Hellgate. I'd be interested in that. Let's talk about Hellgate. Hellgate London was on our cover. Oh gosh,
May
just
of
this past May.
This
Oh,
past
it seems
May.
like years
Wow.
ago. Okay, that's the game from Flagship Studios, which are the guys who broke off from Blizzard North.
Mhm.
So this is all of the main creators of Diablo 2
Yep,
and Diablo 1.
Yeah.
So this is the Diablo folks, and this is their new game that we've been waiting for. Their first game as Flagship Studios, and Darren went and played it a little while ago, and
it'll be ready when it's ready. They're saying sometime in mid 2007 at this point. Hopefully, people will at least be playing online betas. It's sooner. It's the hunter, the third character. We actually called it in the May cover story. They didn't announce it, but we kind of dug out some information and kind of guessed it. So
I want them to hurry up on this one.
I really do.
'Cause it's starting to get into the come back to me
Yeah.
when you got something.
I think the problem
category.
is it's one of those it was those mysteries. So it was they first rolled out of the studio. They first let me see, Flagship formed in 2003. They announced it the following March, and then we did a follow up like a year later just to find out what's going on, what's taking so long. And now everyone's just kind of it's like the anxiousness is there. Definitely.
I mean, there's seriously no reason to doubt
Right.
this team's ability. I mean, they made two of the greatest and most popular PC games ever. You know, this is that team. It's not even a subset of that team. This is like the main Diablo folks.
Right.
So,
okay, so I think people have talked to death about the first guy that was introduced, the Templar. That was basically its melee class.
Templars are coming back these days.
I'm telling you, man.
Templars are in.
We can't talk about just how, but they're popping up all
That's
over.
true. Templars, the new
they've
black.
been
Assassin's
reading
Creed,
about it.
Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Templars, the new black. Then there's color black. Never mind.
Not African American.
Correct. I'm talking
Okay.
about outfits. Anyway, so the Kabbalist, magic user, spellslinger, summoner,
Madonna fans.
totally.
So I remember when
Kabbalah.
the
The Kabbalist.
It's Kabbalah. It's different.
Did you see what I did there?
That was funny, sir.
It took me a while. I was like, huh?
I don't get it.
when we first talked to them about Hellgate, the biggest thing was kind of the online lobby area where you would gather and then go out on adventures, and that thunder was stolen a little bit by Guild Wars in the meantime.
Well,
don't you think? Or no?
You know what? It kind of was, but then again, that was all stolen from a different universe, but Phantasy Star.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, on a smaller level, that's what they've been doing for years since 2000.
Wasn't that what Diablo
And
did?
that's exactly what I was going to say.
Well, right, but Diablo, you were in a
chat room.
text-based chat lobby, right? I mean,
Right.
well, it was
as opposed to being in the world.
right. Diablo was a text-based chat room. Phantasy Star was a hub-based world, a graphical representation of that. Then it was Guild Wars, and now it's basically the next logical step is
Yeah.
what Hellgate's doing.
It's no big deal anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
But it's still, but they're trying to do like more of a community push and whatever. But like the main thing they were showing off when I was there, 2 weeks ago now I think, was the hunter class, which actually plays a lot like an FPS game. The one thing that I thought was kind of weird at first is that like my first instance, I'm hitting the R key to reload after shooting. There's no ammo, so you start.
It's like the Hyper Blaster.
Kinda. Yeah, but there's a cooldown. There's actually a temperature gauge on it.
Still
Okay.
overheated. That's how the Hyper Blaster works. At
Right,
least in
right.
Quake Wars. I mean, Quake Wars as opposed
So,
to.
but the general idea is you start off a class and you pick from. I mean, actually, you randomly start with one of three types of different weapon sets. You come with like dual pistols, some kind of like Uber machine gun kind of deal, and you just kind of go from there.
Kids like that double fisting.
So they sure do.
Next up, I want double fisting and manholing.
I've been to that
Okay.
webpage.
Oh, my
But,
goodness.
But let me
Another
see.
section to edit.
Well, dude, every time you read in some of the previews, like, ever since Halo 2, everyone's like, you got double fisting action. And I'm like, well, the subtext is there, I mean.
It's there.
It's kind of like, I think Frank Miller's 300 is like all, it's like naked guys with like big spears,
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You're just saying.
I'm just saying I'm being there opening night. That's all.
That's right. Front row.
Going with you.
Hello, nurse.
I don't apologize. If you pick these terms, you got to be aware of the possible
Fully
repercussions.
aware.
Fair enough.
Fair. We've been warned.
It's-
All right,
you know
so-
about it.
They know.
So
They
this-
do know.
So anyway, so as a missile class, these guys are like good at a distance, but they have crap shields and they recharge and stuff, kind of like in Halo, I guess. And they have tinker abilities that you can like level up among with other skills. So like, let's say you find a weapon you can't use, you can create a drone that holds that weapon and shoots it and follows you around, like a hunter class in WoW,
Or the mag in Phantasy Star Online.
or like the Mega Fantasy Star Online.
Mags didn't shoot anything, though.
The one thing I felt was kind of weird though is there's so many conventions of a first-person shooter. You used to like say like I said with
Yeah.
reloading, but also crouching. That becomes a skill you activate.
Uh-huh.
So instead of doing a running crouch, you have to hotkey it to like the number 2, and like you do you stay in one position crouch, and you have to get up again and move.
Well, that's always been the interesting thing about this game, right? Is that it's this really weird hybrid of
Yeah.
a Diablo-style game with FPS abilities in it.
Exactly.
I mean, I think that's the whole compelling. That's why I want to see it.
And
But
that-
can they pull this off?
And the thing was, I specifically joined. We played multiplayer, and I joined a group. We went on a couple quests where I made sure I was in a group where there was a bunch of people representing the different classes.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously, like the team speak wasn't, having like voice comm wasn't in place, but the idea of organizing the troops is kind of cool. But the one thing that I felt was obviously they're tweaking, but all the pet classes like the summoners and like you don't have that much control. Or you don't have any control really over these guys. You can't set aggro levels or anything because like if my bot sees some other dude in the environment, he's off. he's off chasing him down in like in a proximity.
I hope they don't rely on voice chat as a I hope that's not going to be key because seriously, I feel that technology always needs to be optional. I just don't want to play games that way.
That's the deal.
I just
yeah.
don't.
Like if there's some way like you said like
great with your friends, not so great with strangers.
Yeah, I don't want to be playing a game and then be taking orders from a 12-year-old.
Yeah, just go on Xbox Live.
Left.
Anytime you want a reminder
wrong
as to
man.
why it should be optional, just hop onto Xbox Live.
Yeah.
I mean, not only do I want to hear little kids, but I don't want to look like a fool in front of my wife and kid at home. You know,
right?
Like it's hard enough being a grown person playing games without sounding like a complete fool at home.
Yeah, and as long as someone's just typing,
I did reload.
It could be anyone, you know.
But you know, more times than not, though, the game kind of just it was kind of like everyone was just kind of like, I wouldn't say off doing their own thing, but like there was like two distinct groups. There was the ninja looters who were running around trying to like scavenge the environment.
Yeah.
And then there was those who were just kind of wading right into the mess. And it was kind of hard to keep tabs on everyone. I wish that, like, as a team leader, someone, even just something as simple as saying, okay, we're going to target this area, or some kind of like, without having to say it, just kind of like you click on a target and everyone else can see who you're targeting. So little things like that could help. But otherwise, it is a very interesting step. And I mean, I don't know how. Like when I talked to Roper about it, he said it's about 75-80% there. So I mean,
another 3 years,
another 4. Yeah.
No, I'm psyched for it. I don't mean to come down on it. I just want to see it now.
At this point, it's like I will play it when it comes out.
It does raise another.
Come out already.
It does raise another question, though. I think we kind of hinted upon this earlier. Is like I almost wish that like they don't tell us about games too soon in the process, because then you get the hype machine rolling too soon, and you're like.
Right, then we're a big downslope,
which of course we're part of.
Right, I think we're guilty of this as well. But I just think because right now, for example, with Hellgate, if no one knew about it until the May issue, in the first place, they'd be like, "Oh, cool, this is coming up."
Right. Well, I just I'm in the middle of working on a Q&A with the Huxley guys, and I went back to look at what we wrote about it, and we did that cover story in November 2005. You know, I mean. This is nothing new. This is no surprise.
That's how it's
Obviously,
been, yeah.
Games take years to develop, but you got to wonder, when it's too early for us to start publicizing it, or when it's too early for them to do it, and when it's too early for us to sort of go along.
For all
with
the
it.
developers listening out there, I still like to get the first word on.
Yeah, I'm not saying. Don't. Yeah, please come to us for the scoops.
Yeah.
Definitely that. But I mean, it's just a matter of like adjusting that plan to get the word out at the right time, and not like kind of not build the buzz up to like.
Well, it's tough. I mean, this is a whole other podcast discussion, right? Because of course everybody wants to be the magazine or the website or whatever to break the story, but on the other hand, we could talk forever about like the cover curse of games that we put on our cover, and then 3 years later it came out and it was a piece of crap.
That's great game of the year fodder, by the way.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, maybe it's. I mean, it is more of a I think it is more of a marketing question, really, and it's just maybe it requires getting a marketing person on the phone or something. And
that'd be exciting.
Some of it, there's other things too. I mean,
watch the spin machine roll on that one.
The technique, I think, as it is now, is to come out and have various media and press blasts where that happens, and then they kind of go under the radar for a while, and then as it approaches launch time, then they start coming out with it again. But one kind of interesting thing. I mean, I have no idea if it's on their mind or not. Is just the ability to to say that these were your ideas first. So say for example, like we were talking to the guys from CNC. What if they had just announced the premise for CNC3 right now? Then everyone's going to be like, "You freaking ripped off Superman!
Right?
Why'd you do that?" Then like at least they could say, "Hey," but in terms of other games, if another game like Huxley, was announced. Whatever 2 months ago, and then Huxley still hasn't been announced. And it's kind of a matter of like who's copying who and stuff. And I don't know if that plays in.
Well, and that's also why the developers keep stuff close to the chest, right? Especially like MMO developers, like they might actually have some cool innovations, but if other teams get wind of it, they can throw it.
They've got 4 years to throw it in their game.
A lot of times, too, people do want to wait. I think because of the amount of dollars involved in this industry, unlike. If it was a website or something and someone had an idea, like, sure, as soon as it's out, the genie's out of the bottle, everyone's going to rip it off. But in games, it's like you wait for someone else to pull the trigger because the consequences could be disastrous. They could be, so-so. And it's only when they're great that you get the people in the big spots say, okay, that's good. We need to do that in our game. That's what's hot right now.
Right. We're still sort of we're just running on on fume. Not
fumes,
but
we
we're just running.
If we want to go out, we can give that.
No. I'm just wondering if we're going to get cut off here. But
we
I
just
guess
hit the hour mark, just so you know.
We'll keep talking.
We can do the Rocky.
We have a whole bunch of news items, and we're not getting booted out of the room for once.
Sweet.
So let's keep talking.
Those Retronaut bitches.
Do you want to go through some new stuff, or
just a quick thing? You want me to start off with this?
Oh,
one?
please, yeah.
Okay, do the Crytek thing.
This is a great story.
I got this from Quarter to Three Forums poster Tim Bartlett, who I believe is employed with Crytek, makers of Crysis and Far Cry, and he posted to discuss how current undergoing legislation in Germany to effectively ban violent video games. Similar to some of the campaigns that would pop up here.
Sounds a little more hardcore over there, though.
Now and then, yeah. So in the context of this, I'll give you here's what his prime concern is. This is Bavaria, which is where Coburg is located, and that's where Crytek used to be before they moved to Frankfurt, Germany, somewhat west of there. But he says Bavaria is a conservative state, possibly the most conservative of an already conservative nation. The state president of Bavaria, Dr. Edmund Stoiber, renowned for his somewhat bizarre habit of dressing in Lederhosen and a Tyrolean hat, made it clear that before the raid how much he despised the kind of killer games that we made. This being Crytek. Mm-hmm. And it is again from Bavaria where the latest attempt to ban computer games is stirring. Let me see here. I'm reading around the wrong spot. Okay, anyway, the current legislation is basically summarized as this. A new law would say that those who distribute, produce, obtain, or deliver computer games that allow the player to perform violent acts against human beings in a cruel way or a way violating human dignity as a primary or secondary objective will be punished with a fine or imprisonment of up to 1 year.
They should have had that back during Nazi Germany, huh? I'm just saying.
Whoa.
Okay, so now...
Were there any train cars pulling up when they... anyway.
What he reveals now in light of this... And that legislation is current. But back in 2004, something rather extraordinary, and I'm surprised we hadn't heard about it until now, happened to Crytek. And I'll just read from his post here. Okay, in 2004, the authorities sent in the state troopers. Ostensibly, it was as a response to a claim made by a former employee that we had illegal software installed on our machines. Their remit, however, appeared to be a lot wider. When the small tech team appeared to inspect our computers, they were accompanied by over 100 flak-jacketed riot police, all armed with Heckler & Koch submachine guns. It was like they expected to find us hunkered down behind our desks, pulling out our shotguns and semi-autos and
you're
shouting,
making fun of the trains?
"You'll never take me alive, police." They arrived first thing in the morning and kicked our doors down. They even raided a nearby private residence, with one of our programs forced to lay down naked on the floor with a gun to his head after he discovered armed police in his room while finishing his shower.
That's kind of hot.
Because we weren't all at work at the same ungodly hour that most Germans start, they were forced to set up ambushes all over town. I was caught just outside the office. Others were pounced on in the park. There were reports that they even set up roadblocks on the exits to the town. We were all shepherded into our motion capture studio, and there we were forced to remain until questioned, prevented from leaving by dozens of armed guards. There must have been 2 guys and girls with submachine guns for every one of us. You can imagine we didn't feel very welcome in Bavaria after that. So... maybe aside from the story we got as to why they moved to Frankfurt being, a bigger financial...
maybe this has something more to do with it.
Do they have bulletproof glass and retina scans?
Oh, wow.
Right, so I just thought that was a fun story.
And that was all because they supposedly had illegal software?
Right, allegedly had illegal software on. So they basically cordoned off the entire... If we can believe Tim Bartlett's report, they cordoned off the entire town and descended on them with their special forces teams.
So are you implying, or is the implication that this was because they were making a game as opposed to...
Yeah, so I think he's drawing the
out.
Connection that they're not looked on very kindly by certain parts of the Bavarian government, But it's interesting because I know there's probably a great deal of pride in Germany for, being home to places like Crytek and the guys that make Gothic 3 and stuff like that, you know?
Just not in Bavaria.
I mean, yeah, but just not in Bavaria, so maybe they did it was a good decision
probably
to get
wipe
out of there.
that off your tourist destination spot.
Yeah.
Or if
boycott,
you do go...
boycott the beer and the, and the cream.
Or don't be playing your DS in a German cafe there.
I heard Krispy Kreme comes from Bavaria. I'm not going to eat them.
That's kind of a creepy story.
It is very creepy.
Darren's got some more news.
And that's hardly as creepy, but interesting nonetheless. So one of the first, besides RoboBlitz, one of the first games to come out on the PC with the Unreal 3 engine is Rainbow Six Vegas.
Yes.
So I don't know, has anyone here had a chance to play it
That
yet?
game is using Unreal Engine 3?
It's using a modified version of it. Technically, according to a report
shit in my my view.
Apparently, it's like what they're saying is like it's more like Unreal 2.5.
Yeah, I know it's powered by Unreal, but it's got to be. I thought when I play them, okay, 2.5.
Well, they probably had to stop at one point, because up until, from what I understand, up until the end of Gears of War, they were kind of building out the Unreal 3 engine.
Right.
So at some point in the process, they just had to say stop and then just go forward from there.
I guess we should clarify that when Sean Elliott, this is for Ubisoft, when Sean Elliott said it looked like shit,
it's hyperbole.
He actually meant it looked great.
I mean, for an Unreal Engine 3 game, I would say it looks like shit. It looks great for an Unreal 2.5.
It actually looks pretty.
I'm not backpedaling for them either. It would look fantastic with that engine, but when you go back and forth between playing that and playing, like Gears of War or something, or even to me, like some of the stuff on Source right now, or other other engines.
That's cool. I was just thinking of the angry phone call I'm going to get later.
So. Yeah, it's just
so basically just
equals
a lot of low res textures, not not much normal mapping at all.
Yeah, shit on our scale is great on everyone else's
hyperbole
scale.
flies on the podcast. I wouldn't put that in print.
So basically, a corny turd is a 0 on our scale.
Oh, please.
Well, that's disgusting.
Oh,
Just that.
Just that. Okay.
Okay. So back to
this.
Back to this.
So the point. Okay. So if you go to amdzone.com, nothing, and they ran some tests, and I think we were talking about this earlier. Well, I forget whether we were recording or not, but there's a question. I know Valve is on the same page with this. A dual core, while interesting, is not giving the huge performance leaps that they're expecting, and really quad cores where it's really like Kentsfield, which is kind of happening right now for Intel.
So everyone that went and got the dual cores this year, this is the big dangerous wager you make with
every time and
cutting edge tech.
And this is exactly
you
why
might have got yourself a Betamax.
And that's exactly why. Like
that's great.
And that's exactly why. Like whenever you you don't ever go toward like the bleeding edge high end of the scale because. Or at least wait until the next big.
But how do we know?
The trick is to wait for those.
There
jumps.
were 8,000 articles about how great dual core was, and now you're saying
about gaming.
Yeah,
yeah. Darren wrote them,
but now you're saying that Darren wrote them. But now you're saying that it's quad core. Like, how do I know to trust that?
What we're both doing is we're both parroting like prominent developers. So now here we have Epic and we've got Valve both saying that hey, it's quad core bust. We don't get enough return off of the dual core.
Well. I'll reference what I was saying in my own articles. If you bothered reading the text section, I pointed people to say don't bother buying the high end stuff. Go for the middle of the road chips or like $300, and they give you pretty solid performance.
Right,
and lets you hold off. But that said, okay. So anyway, AMDZone.com, they came in their tests. They found that at lower resolutions, 10:7, they were getting really good performance, pretty good performance scores. So like. With everything turned on in dual core versus single core, it was a difference of 35 versus 49 frames per second. But as you jacked up the resolution, it got closer and closer. So finally, when you get up to 16:12, it was a matter of a 2 frame per second difference between
dual core
and single core. So it's an interesting test.
I'd be pretty annoyed if I had.
And this is using what the heck? I think this is using. Okay, so this is using. I'm reading the things off the machine.
But a lot of that's going to come down to how the developers are coding.
Yes, of course.
It's all going to come down to that.
In all disclosure, here's the full rundown. So it's a AMD Athlon FX 62 GeForce 8800 GTX, the new high-end kick-ass board. 2 gigs of Corsair RAM using a 550 watt power supply, 320 gigabyte hard drive. You get the idea. So this is not a piece of crap machine. This is it's not exactly bleeding edge, but it's just kind of interesting. What the results are showing.
Right. And it's a matter of I'm kind of curious to see what other developers will join. Maybe Valve will. Who knows? I honestly don't think they're going to pull an about face at this point and say, "Hey, dual core actually is up to task."
Also,
because they're developing so many AI and physics applications for quad core at the moment. But if other developers join in and say, "Hey, it's just not worth the effort to do all this kind of wizardry for the dual core."
And also one other thing that should be pointed out: this is AMD Zone, and everyone kind of recognizes these days that Intel is a better chip.
Right.
So these numbers could be totally. Obviously, if you have an AMD, this is going to matter to you, and if you live and die by that, then you're
right.
It's going to matter. But Intel.
I'm cringing over here because whenever we talk about, any hardware tests in the magazine always yield 20 angry phone calls from hardware vendors.
Uh-oh.
So Darren, am I?
It could. We'll put it like we said. Put it on also on the developers too, because you have to. If you're going to effectively use it, you need to distribute the tasks that your game is performing, AI, physics, and other things, amongst the processors, right?
Yeah.
And do various things to get them to work. But
And
it's
assu-
like,
and it's
but it's kind of like what's the
processor, a certain
penetration
GPU.
rate? Is it gonna pay off
Mm-hmm.
to put all this effort into it if only 3% of our user base has got these things?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, there's so many things involved in it. It's not easy to just put the blame.
And again, I'm saying like these are results off AMD Zone, but like from what we've heard from Valve is that they're saying that they themselves are saying that you have to wait for quad core to get the real return on your investment.
And this is for gaming too. I mean, if you're working like multiple programs, drafting programs and InDesign and things like that, the dual core is going to be a big help for you, right? I mean.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, when you a lot of CPU intensive stuff, you want to juggle activities. Like I'm a nerd. I do a lot of other stuff besides just gaming. I do video compression. I do other things on the side.
Right.
And it does juggle that stuff a lot faster.
The moral is that if you paid however much money to get 2 frames a second advantage on a computer game, you might not have been like the target audience for the dual core in the first place.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's kind of like the point we've always said in the magazine is just kind of like be aware of what's going on and like where things are at in the industry. And Kensfield's around the corner, and like prices are going to skew again, of course.
Right.
So for the time being, be happy with what
True.
you got. I mean, if anything, I think I've been pretty. I've been pretty much suggesting to like friends of mine who've been asking about buying a new computer. Wait, because
I'm just waiting.
I'm waiting too.
No, the thing is, because with Vista coming out, like technically it's legacy hardware optimized for
Right.
XP.
Right.
I got a copy of Vista yesterday, by the way. Yeah, thank you. Aren't I
I'm
great?
still-
I'm afraid to install it.
You know what? It's the basic stuff. I mean, if you have like pretty much standard issue stuff that's out there right now, for the most part, it works.
Mm-hmm. For
And
the most part.
For the most,
That's not going to convince. I'm still staying in the core until I can have a harem with the real true bigamy core.
Well, the mind-boggling part that I wrote about in our story is that it won't. Well, right now it won't support like the 8800s if you have one,
which I don't,
or the XFi,
which I do.
Exactly.
Okay, so forget it.
I mean, granted, I've been out on the road the past week, so I haven't had a chance to check driver updates, but maybe.
All right.
It's anything.
Let's keep going down the coffee stain news
I'm
list.
buy it.
All right.
Yeah.
That's right. This is totally like old school. Like Smitty reading the news.
Everyone out there, there's giant coffee stains on the news because my latte dumped over on.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
That was great.
We forgot the news ticker sound effects, by the way.
There it is.
We can edit that in, right?
Okay.
We can edit it
Yeah, I
later.
just did it right now.
Thanks.
Mortal Kombat! That's how we start that.
All right.
I don't know what that was.
Next up,
something.
You get sounds. I hear music, and it's all one continuous thing, guys.
It
In
is
your
a
head?
Music,
party
man.
in your head all the time.
No, I hear any kind of like, and that's Mortal Kombat soundtrack to me.
Wow.
Ready
Wow.
to start.
You're just
It
constantly
must be
hearing the
fun
Mortal
in your
Kombat.
head.
Fatality.
fatalities.
All right, so guys, are we gonna have a candlelight?
Wins.
We're gonna have a candlelight